54 degrees. So that's how much it needs to twist, I think. We'll find out. Well, welcome back to Fabrication 101. We're going to try and get these tube fenders finished up today. You can see I was using that messed up piece of tube to try and figure out where my bend mark needed to be. One of the things I don't ever throw that kind of stuff away because you never know when it'll come in handy. I honestly, I do throw it away eventually, or I'll cut it up and use it for something else. I was actually thinking I might use part of that to do the front part of this tube fender that I need to splice in there. I do want to try and see if I can get this one bent in the way it should be, just like the back one is. And again, like I said before, it's this bend here is the same as this bend here, because I do want it to come parallel to the ground as close as I can get it. So I think they call it a complementary angle. Maybe some geometry folks can fill me in on that. You can see here where I had to do the heat shrinking in the last video. It only showed a little bit of it, but I did have to heat shrink most of this area, and it actually pulled the warp out pretty well. I'm down to about I think less than a 1/16 on either end of this, which is pretty reasonable and pretty easy for me to deal with on here. So next thing I got to do is I got to pop this tube off. I do have to add a tiny bit of bend up there, and then go ahead and bend this piece here, and then we'll see if we can stick it back on here and see how it looks. All right, before I get this tube bent, I want to show you this fancy little nifty little tool I bought. And I've seen these around, they've been around for a while. This is a digital little angle gauge AccuMaster. I bought off of Amazon. I want to say it was like 20 bucks or something like that, not terribly expensive. And I do believe it's Swag Off-Road makes a holder for this that can clamp right onto the tube. I haven't done that yet, but what I did find is that if you'll notice, this says 1.3. A minute ago it was 1.5 degrees. I think it depends on, there's a little flat on this piece here. So if I'm at 1.5 there, and where I was measuring the other day, this is at 2.5. So that's a whole degree difference, or 2.6 now. So that's a whole degree different than my old rotary, I don't even know what you call those things, this little angle gauge, which I've had forever. So I bought this one. Hopefully it makes things a little easier. So, but like I said, this is, my die is at 1.5 degrees. So I want to take that and add it to the angle that I'm trying to get to on my tube. And my tube, I want, if I can get that to hang on there the way it's supposed to, I want to be at 25.5 degrees, and so adding 1.5 makes it 27. So that's about where I need to be. Pretty close, hopefully we'll find out. Another way I can check this is I can take my digital bevel gauge, which is what I use to measure it, and if I set this on here, this top here should be pretty close to level, or at least level with the die. And if I wasn't holding a camera, it'd be a little easier for me to show you that, but it does line up pretty close to where I want to be. So hopefully I'm not too far off on this one, where I have to mess with it a little bit more. So we'll get it bent, and then we'll move on from there. See, I got it notched and on there. Come on. The notch I did, you could see by hand with the grinder, because it is kind of a complicated notch to get to fit in there, because this tube comes in at an angle and then this tube comes down at an angle, but it's actually in there pretty good. I don't know if you guys can see that in there, but pretty pleased with that. The angle looks good all the way down. This looks pretty consistent. I did go ahead and add a little bit of bend here, and then I went ahead and sleeved this. I put the plug weld in the back where I can get to it, even if I forget to do it before I put the sheet metal on. So the next thing is going to be to figure out this little piece here. What do you guys think? I got it in there. This little tube was a pain in the backside. That tube, that little piece there, the little jumper splice in there, to get to fit and look good. Looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. It should all blend in there really nicely when I'm done. But to do that silly little thing, this tube is my third attempt at this. I actually had to take the first plug out and redo it because I needed to shorten this tube up some more. But that took me 3 tries to get that little thing to line up, and I think it was just the combination of the angles and then having to get this height correct. I don't know why, bending the tube, I managed to do it in really the first shot. It was pretty easy. But getting that one to fit was really a hassle, but I'm glad I took the time and made the effort to get it to fit right. I really am pleased with the way that thing lays in there. I'm going to go ahead and weld this stuff, try and weld this as much as I can on here, and then go ahead and weld that, and then these are going to come out. All right, it's all tacked up. Got a ton of welding to do. I guess it's time for a time lapse. You ready? So she's all burned in there. Went pretty good. I know pretty almost certainly that there is going to have to be some touch-up work after I grind it down the first time. It is definitely not perfect, but it came out pretty good, welded up pretty nicely. I'm not gonna grind it off today. I'm gonna go ahead and let it cool down. So that I can, and get it ground off later. I did buy a bigger grinder, so I bought an 8-inch grinder to do this stuff with, because the larger the surface area of the grinder, the smoother you can get your part to come out. The only problem is when I bought it, all they had were 80 grit discs, which is nice for the final finish, but kind of is a little hard to get remove material fairly quickly. So hopefully I can pick up a like a 40 or a 60 maybe even. 40 would be nice, but we'll have to see what I can find. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on Fabrication 101, and in the meantime, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and go build something.